Good evening to both of you. Right now, Rick Debate's attorneys, they are asking to have statements he made during an interview in the hospital with detectives right after his wife was killed to be thrown out of this case.
On December 23, 2015, a terrible thing happened in the small Connecticut town of Ellington. Connie Debate was a much-loved wife and mother who was found dead in her own home. The crime was shocking to the close-knit community, and detectives did not know what to think. This is the story of a cold case that was not solved for 7 long years until justice was finally done. Hi and welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, as it helps us motivate to create more intriguing content for you. Connie was born in Rockville on July 31, 1976, to Cindy and Kenneth. Connie had 2 sisters and a brother. Their names were Marlies, Leslie, and Keith. Connie graduated from Ellington High School in 1995. Connie then went to the University of Connecticut, where she got her bachelor's degree in 1999. She then went to work as a pharmaceutical sales agent for Record Ben Kaiser. People who knew Connie say that she was kind and giving and would do anything to help the people she cared about. Connie was popular and had a lot of friends. In the early 20s, when Connie told her close friends that she was seeing Richard Debate, they were smitten. He was very nice and treated Connie like a princess. Richard was born in Manchester, Connecticut, and grew up there. He went to Manchester High School and finished in 1995. Richard Debate went to technical school after he finished high school and got a job as a computer network administrator. Richard Debate seemed like the perfect husband and father figure for Connie's boys because she took care of them so well. The Debates lived in a beautiful home on Ellington's Birchview Drive. Connie's best friends Peggy and Darlene both lived in the same area, and their families got along well with each other. Peggy and Darlene used to tease Richard Debate about how good of a husband he was to Connie. From any point of view, the Debates' lives looked perfect. They looked like they had everything. In fact, cracks were already beginning to show. On December 23, 2015, the day started out as usual in the morning. On this Wednesday, Ellington was full of joy and excitement because Christmas was coming up in just 2 days. At 8:10 a.m., Richard Debate dropped off Connor and RJ at the nearby bus stop. While he was away, Connie got ready and went to a spin class at the local IMCA. What happened next is not clear because Richard Debate has told many different stories that contradict each other about what happened. Richard Debate took the boys to their destination, returned to his house, and then switched into his work attire. Richard Debate got back to his car at 8:30 a.m., ready to go to work. It took him 40 minutes to get there. Soon after he left, he remembered that his laptop was still at home. Richard Debate could not do his job without it, so he used his phone to send an email to his boss to let him know he would be late. He looked at his phone and saw a security alert about a quiet alarm that had gone off at his house. In the email, he also talked about it. He went carefully into his house when he got back there. Richard Debate looked into the noise and found that it sounded like someone was in their master bedroom, which was upstairs. When he peered through the door, he saw a masked stranger standing there with him. Only half of the door was open. He said that the invader, who was about 6 feet 2 inches tall and wore a mask and dark green camouflage, made a threat and asked for money, a wallet, and PIN numbers. The stranger also told him that if he did not do what he said, he would wait for his wife and children. Richard Debate said that the person who broke in had a knife. He said that the man's deep voice made him sound like Vin Diesel. Richard Debate had been with the intruder for less than a minute when he heard their garage door open. It was Connie, who had come back early because her lesson had been canceled. He yelled at his wife to get her attention and tell her about the danger in their home. Then the intruder seemed to be concentrating on Connie, and he and Richard Debate raced to get to her first. During the fight, he was thrown down the stairs, and for a moment he could not find his way. He was able to get past him and follow Connie down into the cellar. He got up and rushed to help Connie, but it was already too late. As he ran down the steps, he heard a shot. Because it was so loud, he had trouble hearing for a few minutes afterward. After concentrating on Richard's debate, the intruder used a specific pressure point to overwhelm him and make him fall over. After the intruder took a box cutter from Richard Debate's toolbox, he got a few small cuts on his body. Then the intruder got a blowtorch and started setting things on fire. The intruder then tried to burn Richard Debate with the blowtorch, but he used his free hand to grab the blowtorch from the intruder. He had said before that the man was wearing a mask, but he still shot the gun at the man's face and burned him. Before Richard Debate scared the man away after what happened with the blowtorch, the whole thing took 5 minutes. According to the original plan, it should have happened no later than 9:05 a.m. He does not make a police call until 10:21 a.m. When an alarm went off at a customer's house at 10:16 a.m., the security company immediately called the state police to let them know. Why was not this information given to the police right away after Richard Debate supposedly saw the report just after 8:30 a.m.? At 7 Birchview Drive, the first person to arrive was a firefighter from the Ellington Fire Department. Even though the front door was open, the storm door was still closed. He went in after knocking and getting no answer. A thin layer of smoke in the air was the first thing that caught his eye. Through the open door to the basement, drops of blood were moving toward the kitchen. After following the way, the man found Richard Debate. He was face down on the kitchen floor and still tied to the folding chair. He told the person who had broken in that he was still on the land. As soon as the man called for help and said that someone had broken into his house, a lot of police officers showed up. They tried to find the shooter as quickly as possible. The officers started writing down everything they knew about the house. They took many shots of Richard Debate lying on the ground and showing how he was tied to the metal chair. His left hand and left ankle were just zip-tied, which was strange. Connie was down in the basement in the boiler room. She had 2 gunshot wounds, one to the back of her head and one to her stomach. On-site medical staff declared her dead. This was no longer just a house break-in. Canine units got there quickly, hoping to show police where the shooter had run away. But it looked like the dog was only interested in Richard Debate. One of the dogs found Richard Debate's wallet on the grass outside, which is likely where the intruder left it when he ran away. Still, the dogs could not find a scent that led outside of the land. Instead, they went with their captors to the ambulance where Richard Debate was getting care for his slight injuries. Investigators saw right away that Richard Debate's story did not add up. Richard Debate went to the hospital in Hartford. At this place, he was first asked about what happened that day. He told the police what the intruder looked like and told them that he had seen the person shoot Connie in the basement. After Richard Debate told them what happened, the officers asked him some more questions to find out more. At this point, they noticed that Richard Debate's story was changing slightly, which is always a sign that something is wrong. When Richard Debate first heard the alarm, he was not sure if it was real and thought he might have accidentally set it off. Richard Debate says that he left before Connie dropped the boys off. Then, he said that he could not remember who had left first. The next thing to change was his account of the sounds coming from upstairs. When Richard Debate first walked in, there was nothing going on. Instead, he went upstairs and saw that the light in the bedroom was on. He found out later that the intruder had been looking in their clothes. The shift to the next story led us to the stairs. It is important to remember that at first, Richard Debate said he was pushed down the stairs, but now he says he just fell down them. The story about the gun was very important to the police. The gun used to shoot Connie was a .357 Magnum. He had one of his own guns in the house. At first, he told the police that he did not know how the thief got the gun from Connie. Now, he said that he saw Connie and the stranger fight over the gun. Before he shot Connie, the man took it from her. Oh, and the basement was pitch black the whole time. Richard Debate reportedly told detectives how he dragged himself up the stairs while still tied to the metal chair. When he woke up, he found his cell phone and called 911 while calling Connie's number at the same time, hoping she would answer. Richard Debate had put the cuts in a good place. His chest wounds were only visible on his left side, and all of his leg wounds were easy to reach with his right hand. The people who looked into it were interested in this. Also, he had no bruises that would have come from being pushed or falling down the steps. When he was sitting on the metal chair, the cuts from the box cutter would not have caused dried blood to run down the edges of his legs as you might expect. The fact that there was no blood on the stairs was another thing that made the inspectors think something was wrong. There should be proof that Richard Debate got from the basement to the kitchen. The only signs of dragging were drops of water, and they were only in the kitchen. Richard Debate seemed to have gone upstairs before he passed out in the kitchen. The agents were also curious about why Richard Debate had not tried to find out what was going on with Connie. The fact that the pool of blood next to her body had not been moved shows that he was not there when she was shot. Investigators were trying to figure out how exactly a thief got into the house. Since there were no signs of a break-in anywhere else in the house, they thought the thieves must have come in through an open basement window. Still, even this did not make sense. From the inside, the locks on the downstairs window were taken off and left on the windowsill. A thief could not have opened these locks from the outside without doing a lot of damage. So, why do investigators often talk to the people closest to a victim to find out more about their life and any problems they may have had? Before they asked Richard Debate what he knew about Connie, the officers talked about what had happened that morning. He started by saying that things had been pretty good, but then he said that Connie had been going through some hard times lately. Richard Debate said that Connie seemed to be slowly going back to how she was before. The investigators then asked Richard Debate directly if his study would show any problems in their relationship. Richard Debate said yes and no. He then admitted to having an affair, but he had a good reason for it. He said that he and Connie both wanted to have more children, but they could not because of their health. Connie could not get pregnant, so after a few failed attempts, they chose to go in a different direction. Richard Debate mentioned Sarah to the investigators, a former classmate from high school who had just undergone a divorce. Sarah also had a child inside of her. Richard Debate said that he, Connie, and Sarah got together and came up with a plan so that Richard Debate would get Sarah pregnant. Because the whole process of artificial insemination was so expensive, the group agreed that Richard Debate would sleep with Sarah and get pregnant that way. He said that Connie agreed with the whole plan and even said that it was mostly her idea. Then how would raising children to work? It looks like the three of them would take care of the child together. Investigators had trouble making sense of such a strange story and doubted that Connie would agree to something like that. As they asked Richard Debate more questions about what happened, his story started to change again. He told them that their baby would be born in February 2016, but when the officers asked him if Connie knew about the pregnancy, he tried to get away from them. If she had thought of this, Connie would have heard the good news at the same time as Richard Debate. Richard Debate then said that Connie and Sarah had never actually talked to each other. Again, this showed that his story about Connie's role in the plan and how they came to be co-parents was not entirely true. By the end of the talk, the real story became clear. Richard Debate had been cheating on Connie for several years before she died. Sarah's pregnancy was also a surprise. The detectives did not try to hide how skeptical they were. They told Richard Debate that there was no proof of what he said happened that morning at their house and that his whole story did not make sense. He insisted that he did nothing wrong in what happened to Connie. When the police found out about Richard Debate's relationship, they focused on finding Sarah. She was able to give them a statement later that same day. Sarah said she knew that Connie and Richard Debate were married, but Richard Debate told her that he was divorcing Connie. Richard Debate told Sarah that he and Connie had been unhappy for a long time and had chosen to end their marriage. Sarah found out on June 18, 2015, that she was pregnant, but she did not tell Richard Debate until August. But when Richard Debate found out, he told Sarah he had just hired a lawyer for a divorce. Like so many other things, this was also a lie. Sarah and Richard Debate were still together when Connie died, and in the middle of December 2015, they took a trip to Vermont. They talked about how they would tell Connie about this trip. After the holidays, Richard Debate wanted to tell her. After talking to Connie's best friends, investigators found out that she would never have been okay with Richard Debate having a child with another woman. Connie told her best friends everything, but they say she never talked about Sarah or how bad things were for the kid. If she had found out Richard Debate was cheating, she would have told them for sure. Richard Debate's friends knew that he was seeing Sarah and that she was pregnant, but Connie's friends did not know about either of these things. He told a friend how much he loved Sarah and was afraid that Connie would leave him. From the start, the whole team of investigators was in a dangerous position. Even though they thought Richard Debate was the one who killed his wife, they did not tell anyone about this. Everyone outside of the police thought that someone had broken in, killed Connie, and hurt Richard Debate. People who knew Richard Debate did not even think for a second that he might have had something to do with Connie's death, and they cried with him. Even though there was a clear main suspect, the detectives did not want to stop looking into other options. There might have been someone who tried to hurt the Debates. They were in court for a long time with a builder who worked on the house. After there were many problems with the contractor's work and Connie was worried about her safety, she and Richard Debate sued the person in small claims court. Connie had trouble dealing with the man, and her car had already been damaged twice in 2015. She thought it was the contractor's fault. Because of these things, the Debates put in a security system and bought guns. Even after Connie died, the contractor came up with a lot of questions about the people she knew. But following this lead did not lead to anything useful because the contractor had a good explanation for where he was on the day of the event and had nothing to do with the person Richard Debate said was the invader. Even though only the police thought Richard Debate killed Connie, many other people thought there was something strange about him. He did not look like he was sad in the way you might expect. Richard Debate asked everyone in the neighborhood group where they liked to order takeout a short time after the event. This seemed strange coming from a man who had just lost his wife, which was a very sad event. As investigators dug deeper into the Debates' lives, they found that they had several clear cash problems. Money was leaving the house faster than it was coming in, so Connie felt like she was carrying all the weight. She told a close friend that she was thinking about getting a divorce from Richard Debate and that she had a file on her notes app called Why I Want a Divorce. In it, she wrote that Richard Debate lied, mistreated her, and did not treat the boys well, among other things. In cases like this, money is often a driving force. Around the middle of January 2016, detectives found out that Connie and Richard Debate had 2 life insurance plans. The total amount of each insurance was a big $475,000. It was found out that Richard Debate's life insurance had been canceled because he had not paid his premiums. Only Connie's insurance was still in effect. Richard Debate did not wait longer than 5 days to get the money from Connie's insurance. A month after she died, he also got $75,000 from the company where she worked. The next year, police built their case against Richard Debate bit by bit. They used several search warrants and looked at Connie's Fitbit more than Richard Debate's phone records, bank papers, letters to people outside of the bank, information about the security system, and communications. On December 23, the Fitbit data showed that Connie started moving around at 7:52 a.m. After that, there was a long time of nothing happening, which made sense since Connie was driving to the IMCA. The search warrant also said that security cameras showed that Connie had arrived at the IMCA. People said that Connie got home around 9:20 a.m. while she was on her way back. Between 9:37 and 9:43, Connie was standing still. Investigators think that during this time, Connie was just sleeping. For the next 20 minutes, Connie kept moving around like she always did. At this time, Connie sent movies from her phone to Facebook using an IP address that was linked to her home. Connie's Fitbit said that she had last moved at 10:05 a.m. So, why did this matter so much? This information proved beyond a doubt that Connie did not die at the time Richard Debate said she did. At 10:05 a.m., an hour after Richard Debate said he saw the stranger kill Connie, she was still alive and moving. The police arrested Richard Debate on April 14, 2017 after deciding they had enough proof to convict him. He was accused of killing Connie, changing evidence, and telling police lies. Richard Debate said he was not guilty of the charges. The police gave a 50-page affidavit that talked about Richard Debate's connection with Sarah, his contradictions, and the Fitbit data. Even though there was a lot of proof, it took a while for the case to go to trial. There were 2 delays before it started on April 5, 2022. From the time Connie was arrested until his trial, there was a lot of news about his case. It became well known because Fitbit solved it, which Connie's family did not like. They thought that getting a catchy title made Connie less important. Even though it looked like the prosecution had a good case, the defense was able to show some evidence that showed the other side was right. 6 different places in the house had unexplained DNA. Richard Debate said that the thief started in their bedroom, went down the stairs, and ended up in the basement. This DNA proved that Richard Debate was right. The defense also said that Richard Debate's exposure to gunshot debris was more proof. He did not have much stuff on him. You could have expected to see a lot more if he had fired the gun. The defense pointed out that the test was done hours after the trigger was pulled, which means that he could have easily washed or wiped his hands during that time. From the start, it was clear what the government wanted to do. Richard Debate's life was falling apart all around him because Sarah was pregnant and Connie thought about leaving him. Lawyer Matthew C. Jadansky told the jury that time is passing, pressure is growing, the kid is coming, and the worst fears of the defendant are likely to come true. On May 10, 2022, after a 5-week trial, the jury met for 3 hours to decide on a decision. All the accusations against Richard Debate led to his guilt. Connie and her family finally got justice after 6.5 hard years. Judge Karine Klatt gave a jail sentence of 65 years. She said that the crime was cruel, sneaky, and hard to understand. Only 1 year stood between her term and the worst punishment she could get. Even though Richard's lawyer said they would file an appeal, it is likely that Richard will spend the rest of his life in jail. How do you feel about this case? Tell us in the comments section below. If you like this video and want to hear from us again, click the subscribe button before you leave. Thanks for watching.